takeover that comes in and purchases a small portion of the company and then sells off the assets in order to finance the purchase of the company.
The next day, Dayton's employees were doing some signing of their own. The company sponsored a huge ice cream social, complete with the appearance from their mascot, the Santa Bear. All were asked to sign a large banner that read, "Thanks, Minnesota, there's no place like home." The banner was later given to the governor. Now consider this. Despite a resounding victory, thanks to the legislature here, did the Dayton-Hudson Company buy enough time to retain control of the corporation? And on the other hand, faced with a tougher takeover law, what options remain for the Dart Group, the Haas, for gaining control of Dayton's? Following the passage of the anti-takeover bill, things got back to normal at Dayton's. That is until one day CEO Kenneth Mackey came to work and found a letter from Herbert Haft, chairman of the Dart Group. The raider, it turns out, was back. Haft informed Mackey that the Madison Partnership had been formed under his control and that the group planned to buy more than $15 million of Dayton-Hudson stock in the next year and perhaps acquire a controlling interest in the company. A second bombshell letter arrived. This one called for the merger of Dart and Dayton to form the new Dayton-Hudson. The Haas would pay $65 a share to stockholders, and they agreed to some major concessions.
When they came back at us the second time, they specifically said that they would maintain the headquarters in Minnesota, that they would keep a lot of the same employee base, and that in fact they would keep in place our community giving process. To that extent, I think you could refer to it as a victory, because they realized tactically that if that's what was important to the people of Minnesota and to our stakeholders, that they ought to do the same thing.
4 days before the Dayton-Hudson board rejected the Haas offer, another surprise surfaced, right here at the Target Midway store between downtown Minneapolis and St. Paul. Robert Haft disregarded his past practice and sought publicity as he toured the Target store. Haft told reporters he and his father were serious about taking over Dayton-Hudson, but keeping alive the company's tradition.
We have opened 425 stores in the last 10 years. We've created thousands of jobs, and we're interested in the communities that Dayton-Hudson serves, specifically Minnesota.
Despite the half show of sincerity and a second merger offer of $68 a share, the Dayton-Hudson board soundly rejected it. The battle for control of these stores moved from here to the federal courts. Dayton sued Dart, charging violations of federal securities law. And Dart countersued Dayton, seeking information about Dayton stockholders. Both sides dug in for what they thought was going to be a long legal battle. And both sides were surprised by what happened next. Wall Street hit bottom. On Monday, October 19th, the Dow Jones Index fell 508 points. Value on the New York Exchange dropped more than any other day in its history. And Dayton-Hudson stock plummeted to $30 a share.
The event that ultimately stopped the raid was the fall in the stock market. But what the new law did was to give Dayton-Hudson time so that when the event occurred, the stock market fall, Dayton-Hudson was still around.
We always have the luxury of looking back and saying we are a company that dodged the bullet. Not many of the companies that went through it can say that today, and therefore I think we would have done very much the same thing if we had to go through it over again.
Folks from time to time say, well, how did you accomplish this? Why was it successful? And I think that a lot of times I say, well, what you got to do is you got to pick the most favored corporate citizen in your state as your client, and then you got to pick the most hated Raider as the opponent, and then you got to get the hell out of the way.
And on Tuesday, October 20th, 1987, Robert Half got out of the way. He announced the sale of his Dayton-Hudson shares and said that the Dart Group would not try to acquire the company. Dayton-Hudson management was aware that it needed to attend to the problem of the company's future, both immediate and in the long term.